Oof, look at the size of some of these wild strawberries. They're having to grow a little bit taller just to get above the grasses, but they are flowering. You see these little white flowers? They'll turn into the little berries. And good luck to you if you can find any before the birds, the squirrels, and other animals get to them. But yeah, the meadow's not looking too bad. As per usual, we have an awful lot of Canada thistle. Again, it's not a native plant, despite the name. And it invades a lot of areas that we've opened up. So there's a lot of it growing in here, and there's a lot of it growing in our little patch there by the sign over there. So we're gonna have a weeding day probably this coming weekend. Details will be in the description. But yeah, generally speaking, the park is looking pretty good. Way over there in the distance are the shrubs that we planted 2 years ago, and they are looking very, very good. And over here is another area that we're gonna need to weed of invasive buckthorn and a few other odds and ends. Virginia creeper, which is native, does get into this area, and we need to keep the new shrubs and the 2 trees that are in here protected from that, so we can do a little bit of thinning there. Some of this is creeping bellflower, which we will also be able to take out. This will be a little bit of a job because there's a lot of returning buckthorn, but because of the wood chips, they're easy to spot, and they should be really fairly easy to either pull or dig out. Otherwise, we can strip some of the larger ones that are regrowing. So this one, if you notice, we took the bark off of this one as a test, and this one is definitely dead. So there's no regrowth coming back at all. You usually tend to look at the base. You know, there's some plants coming up around it, but it's not coming from this actual plant itself. This one, on the other hand, as you can see, there's a lot of regrowth. So what we can do is we can just strip the live material off of it. And again, we just continue to weaken the system that way. Same with that one over there. But yeah, everything else is looking pretty good here. Which one's this? I don't remember. Nannyberry? No, that's not a nannyberry. But we have our red osiers. Those are really easy to spot. There's actually quite a few of them in here. This is a pussy willow. And, oh no, that's not a pussy willow, pardon me. This is a pussy willow. And so this one, yeah, it's doing pretty well, considering it's a little bit drier here, and they do like more water. But I'll show you one that really did nicely here. And look at all these lovely catkins that it produced. So that's a healthy one. And I think that's an elderberry. So that should also spread out. The other thing that we have trouble with in here is dog strangling vine. So that's not a surprise probably to anybody. It's everywhere in the city. So this is what it looks like when it's young. It hasn't started to flower yet, but the flowers will be starting soon. You can sort of see right down in there. There's a little bit of the sort of flower starting right there. This is a bad time to cut it or pick it unless you've got it in your yard and you can actually dig it out. Obviously, we cannot dig it out here because it's literally dotting everywhere. And digging in here is a fool's errand. It's very, very difficult to dig because it's clay. And because it's exposed, it gets very dry and it just becomes almost like cement. So what we have to do is we have to be a little bit patient. I know it's tough. It's very tough to me to not have to, you know, to not be able to rip this out right now. But the best practice really is to wait until the seed pods appear. And then we take those out before those seed pods open up, before they dry, before they spread their fluff everywhere. It's a bit of a balancing act because the monarch butterflies start to return late June, early July. They're going to start to lay their eggs. So it's kind of like we need to get rid of it before they come and start laying eggs. Because this is the plant that will mimic common milkweed, which we also have here. I'm not sure if I've seen any stalks come up yet, but let's take a quick peek. So I know where most of them tend to come up, which is sort of over here in the middle. And if they are coming up, we should be able to spot them fairly easily. Oh, see, a little bit more dog strangling vine here. Yeah, it's usually up around here. So it's not up yet. I'm not seeing any of the new shoots just yet, but it will be coming in very soon. Another thing I wanted to point out Oh, hang on, I'm just gonna pick up that sign, which keeps blowing off, so I'm gonna need a little bit of tape here. Oh. These are all the species. This is a list of the species that we planted in here and some of the reasons why we did it. But I wanted to show you this one, which is called horsetail. So when it first comes up, it almost looks like a mushroom, and I think I do have some video of it somewhere else. But as you can see, it's almost like kind of a frond. It's frondy. And if anybody has nails like I do, and they get a little chip in their nail, this has a bit of a raspy edge along the stalk, and you can sort of use that as an emergency nail file. And I believe horsetail can also be used in some medicinal applications. Don't quote me. If I can find some information, I will chuck it into the description. So we'll just pop that there. Alrighty, well, if you can come out probably this Saturday or Sunday, I will check the weather, put the details in the description. That would be fantastic. All you'll need really is a pair of gloves, maybe a pair of clippers, and some energy and enthusiasm, which is always good to have. All right, so I will take this back with me and fix that up later. Oh my goodness.